Player 2 has joined the game.
Hey, yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another two-player co-op quick hits episode. As always, I'm one of your hosts here, Kevin, along with my brother from my mother, Sean.
How we doing?
Good. You all right over there? You got them their allergies.
I like them their French fried potatoes.
That was like Broforce meets Sling Blade.
I like them Broforce.
Yeah, I just had another sneezing fit, but I think we're good.
Speaking of Broforce, if you watched our last Let's Play of Broforce, wait, is it out? Yeah, it's out. When we killed Satan.
Oh yeah, it is out.
Sean was so allergic to the game ending that he couldn't control himself, and I thought it was hilarious. So
Yeah, that happens. I don't know why.
I don't know. You didn't get that looked at. So we're here for another, like we said, another quick hits episode. And today, I wanted to talk about something that came up on, it was the Gamecast, Kind of Funny Gamescast last week. Inverting controls. And we touched on this when we talked about how I downloaded Overwatch. And Sean came over to play it. And I remember at the time, I didn't really think anything of it, but he's like, do you invert? And I was like, no. He's like, oh, okay, I gotta pause and I gotta change it. I was like, I did not know that you did that. So they talked about this last week, and it's so weird. Why do you invert your controls? Why do you invert Y?
Honestly,
nobody inverts X, I don't think.
It makes perfect sense. And anybody who disagrees with me is wrong. So when you go back, think of a game like Area 51 on Saturn, when you controlled using the controller, not like a gun or whatever.
Right.
When you have a stationary screen and you're moving a target around the screen, it makes sense. When you hit up, the thing goes up, right? It just follows just exactly what you push. It moves around. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to invert for that.
Okay.
When you get into basically any other first-person shooter game where you're not moving a target around the screen, you're moving yourself.
Mm-hmm. You're looking up and you're looking down.
Right.
Which is up and down.
But you're not doing that with the D-pad. On the D-pad, up is up and down is down. On the D-pad,
analog, up is up and down.
On the stick, up. Imagine I'm the stick. If I hit up, what am I going to do? I'm going to hit this thing. If I hit up, if I hit forward, I'm going to do this. I'm going to look down. And when I hit back, I'm going to look up. It makes perfect sense. It's no longer up and down. It's like leaning forward and leaning back. That's why it's a stick standing upright.
Yeah, but it's still inputs. The input that is going into the game is up, down.
But they could call that whatever they want. It's fart, it's cabinet, it's pitcher, and it's doorknob. I mean, you can call it whatever you want, but it's no longer. It's no longer up. What you're doing is you're pressing.
It's fart and doorknob.
It makes perfect sense. It's not. You're no longer. It's up has nothing to do with it. It's forward now. You're pushing. You're tilting something
in
forward.
Your mind.
Your mind. On the control.
No, I know, but like when I want to look up. So if I'm playing a game, I'm playing Call of Duty, and I suck at Call of Duty.
If you wanted to look up right now, what would you do? No, you.
I would look up.
You would do this with your head. Back.
Right.
Back.
I'm not. Well, I guess you are moving it into 3D space, but I'm still looking. In me, I'm Greg and you're Colin, and that sucks for me. I love you, Greg, but like Colin always says, and you're basically saying the same thing. It's like if you stick a pool cue in the back of your head, and you wanted to look down, you would lift the pool cue up. If you want to look up, you lift the pool cue back. I get that, but I don't have a pool cue. Like, I am that person. So when I want to look up, I just go up, and the D-pad and the stick.
But to me,
is,
that
I'm
makes sense.
It up.
To me, that makes sense prior to analog sticks. If you just have the D-pad, I can get it, because then pushing up,
but
you're just hitting an
thing.
up button. You're not tilting a stick, like you said, a three-dimensional object. You're hitting a button, and this button means up. So why would you hit that button that means up and look down? That doesn't make any sense.
You're pushing that up button in.
I'm not. You're pushing all of them in.
That's what she said. No, so basically, I think it comes down to the fundamental difference. Like you believe like Colin does, and I believe, like I said, like Greg does, that when I am playing a game, I am not controlling someone else's head who is playing the game. I'm looking at it through my viewpoint. And if I want to look up, I go up. If I want to go down, I flick it down. I don't think of it as that there's a head on the end of this analog stick, that when I'm doing this, it's making it go one way or the other.
But it doesn't correspond. The same thing that you're doing with that analog stick does not correspond, or with the D-pad, does not correspond to what is happening in the game. When you are pushing forward on the analog stick, your character is basically looking down. When you hit pull back, he's looking back. When you're just hitting an up button, something should be panning. You're moving in a direction. You're not tilting.
No, but that just comes down to how you interpret the actual control pad. And by the way, this is why inverting makes no sense. If you're going to invert Y, you should invert X. Because it's the
glad you brought
same
that
thing.
up.
It's the exact same thing. If I got a friggin' pool cue back here, I'm going to go and
but see,
I look the other way.
Honestly, that I don't know.
Nobody does that, though. So why does anybody invert Y? That's what I do. I cannot. You can give me all the reasons, but then saying that means you should invert X also. Otherwise, you're confusing me.
I guess what I'm thinking about is more from a third-person perspective.
Right.
When you're more controlling a camera. And I go back and forth all the time. I think of like The Witcher or God of War, whatever. And I never know which way I prefer. Because sometimes if I move like on the right stick, if that's controlling the camera, if I move it to the left, sometimes it's like I'm panning a camera, or I'm like rotating a camera around me, and therefore I'm looking to the right. Or sometimes I hit left and it almost depends on the game. Like I never know which.
But take third person out of it. You're playing Call of Duty. You push up to look down. You should push left to look right. That's why I don't get it. Like I could understand inverting if everybody that inverted Y and X, but almost nobody does. The one thing I do understand it for is flight. Third person flight. I mean, we played Chuck Yeager with the joystick.
Yeah.
Okay. It makes sense for flight because it is then I'm pulling myself back, and that's just how you fly, is you pull up to lift up. You're controlling something. I'm not just controlling my own viewpoint. So I get it for that. My prime example of that is God of War 3. When you after you get the wings and you jump in the steam and you're going up. But oh my God, I've beaten that game probably close to 10 times between PS3 and PS4. There are, not every time I get there, but there are times where I get there and I just freeze. Because my instinct is to push up to go down and down to go up. But if I think about what I'm doing, all of a sudden I'm like, I'm like, wait, but why? And it's like I start this whole existential like crisis in my brain where I'm like, well, why am I pushing up to go down and down to go up? This doesn't, and then I'm like, boom, boom, and I keep hitting the things and I die. So that is weird. But for games where you are flying, I get it. I get the inverting because that makes sense because that's how you fly. Colin was saying he went through a phase a few years ago where he just could not play first-person shooters. He would invert, and it didn't feel right. So he'd go back to regular, and it didn't feel right.
See, that's how I am with the X.
Okay.
Like sometimes just neither of them feel right. And I'll get used to, like, I'll want to hit left expecting something to happen, and the opposite happens. So I switch it, but then when I hit left, it's still not what I expect to happen, and I don't know. But what's weird is I used to be I don't remember the timeline of all this, but I know I used to be a non-inverter, and it didn't make sense to me. And then at some point, it just clicked. Now, I will say that obviously neither of us are big PC gamers.
You're
I
gonna-
don't know where
okay.
I stand on this because
The
I would
mouse.
just have to play and see. But yeah,
The mouse.
I'm trying to think if I play with the mouse.
I bet you would move it up to look up. I
I-
almost guarantee it.
I really don't know.
Because that goes back to your whole flat plane thing. It's not a 3D. You're not moving.
But
a 3D
you're
plane anymore.
moving. You're not just hitting a button which represents up. You're
But
moving.
you're moving
an
it,
object.
which is up.
Well, it's forward though.
Then how do you even? You should have to play with a joystick and a mouse.
So it's funny that you brought up Chuck Yeager because I think you may have topped me there. But what I was thinking, the first game that I could think of where this was an issue, and I will say this is early enough in my life that I don't think I played Inverted because I know that was relatively late that I made the switch. Descent. And that is a flying game, but it's first person.
But we use the mouse, so who knows? Because we were pushing.
Well, that was
forward.
weird because you used. No, I don't know if was that
You
with
used
the mouse?
the mouse to look, and then you would push.
A and Z went forward and back. I remember that.
It was probably W and S, but yeah, you would use those to go. You would use those to go forward and back and
No,
straight.
I think
left
it
and
was.
right.
I think A went forward, Z went back, and you used up, down, left, right to look.
Oh, you don't think we even used the mouse?
And control shot and space shot your missiles. I think that may have been. Maybe you could have used the mouse, but I don't remember. I remember using the keyboard. Maybe Descent 2 introduced mouse control. I don't really remember, but
I can't remember. I would assumed it was mouse, but I have no idea.
I will give you this. I will not admit defeat, but that's a fantastic point that you brought up. I don't know if this came from Greg or who. I don't want to give you all the credit, but
It probably wasn't me.
I agree that what I'm saying about pushing up, you're leaning forward. I mean, you could make the argument that when you're hitting left, I guess that's the argument to your argument is, well, if you hit left, why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you look right?
Right, but if I'm the stick, that's up is looking down, back looks up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like you twist the stick.
You move.
You put, so it should
No,
just
no,
do
but think
this.
about it. No, because you're no.
Yes,
then,
because
then
I
it's-
am the stick.
No, because then that.
No, I'm
the
not saying
stick's
it
in the
may-
back of your head.
Why? Then the stick is pointing out. I'm saying the stick, when you play, the stick is pointing
Right.
up.
The stick. So think about.
I
the stick
am the
is,
stick.
The stick is in the back of your head, and the analog is right here.
Yeah, but you're
So you're
pointing
like-
it back this way. Do you play your games like this, or do you play it like this?
No, but I'm just. It doesn't. The stick is still. The analog stick represents, at least the way Colin describes it.
The way I think about it, the stick is like my upper torso. So when I hit forward, I'm bending at the waist. I'm bending at the pivot point. So that's why I look down. And when I pull back, I look up.
But you can't be.
But
the
when
whole
I hit
stick.
left, I should do this.
No.
And when I go right, I do this, which doesn't make sense.
No,
But
you would do like.
No, that would be if you turned the stick.
You can't be the stick. If you were the stick, you'd be lying on your back.
No, I would be upright.
Where's the
That's
stick?
what I'm saying.
Where's the stick?
Do you have a controller here? Right here.
This is a heck of a visual aid.
This is how I play.
Right.
Do you play like this? Do you hold the controller up like this as I'm blocking myself on camera? I play with it flat. So when I hit the stick, I
Yeah, I
push
actually do
forward,
kind
I
of
do
play-
this.
I actually do kind of
When
play
I
like
pull back,
this.
I do this.
I actually do kind
So
of
when
play
I
like
hit
this.
to the left, I really should just lean. That's like peeking around the corner. If I wanted to literally turn to the left,
you're some saying-
what I should do is turn it like that and turn. And obviously you can't do that. They don't move that way. But
You can't be the stick.
why?
The stick is the analog stick is coming out at you this way. That's the whole point. The
That's what
analog
I'm saying.
stick
You
is
play
coming
like
at
this.
you.
You're holding the controller up. I
Doesn't
play with
matter
it down
which
to
way
my
you
lap. The stick. If I was holding this controller and playing a game, the control sticks would be pointing up like this. They
You're
would be
saying-
pointing at me.
You're saying what you stick your thumb on is your head?
It's yeah. And so when I push that forward, I look down. When I pull back, I look up.
But you couldn't pull back then. There's got to be something that you're grabbing. This is the
The
best thing
stick.
we've
I'm
ever done.
grabbing the top of my head and I'm pulling back, so I look up. It makes perfect sense. What doesn't make sense is left and right, because
That's what I'm
then
saying, but if you
don't
left-
turn, you just
But you're not turning. But if you think about it, you would have to turn, and the only way you could turn would be if you were doing this. So if you did turn your head, you're pushing your head the other way, and then you're.
But that's not
pushing
how
it
you
back
turn
this
it. You don't turn the stick. You just push it in a direction. You're not taking the stick and
You're sticking the thumb in the back of your head. So put your thumb on
put
your
the
back of your
thumb
head.
inside the back of my head.
Put the thumb in the back of your head, and now go.
But
If you want to
what is
look
the
left,
thumb?
your thumb, I'm saying your head is the stick, so your thumb is on the analog stick.
But
and if you're going to,
I'm at 90 degrees to the way
it's not an accurate.
How did we
angular
not bring a
representation.
PlayStation? Why didn't we bring PlayStation controllers out here?
Stick a thing in your head, stick a thumb, and then if you want to look left, it doesn't matter about you're saying, well, I should just go this or I should do this. If you got a thumb here and you want to look left, you're going to push that way, which is the right, to look left. And if you want to look left, you're going to push. I mean, if you want to look right, you're going to push to the left.
But now you're treating the stick. I will say I disagree with Colin then, because he's treating it like you said, a pool cue in the back of your head. But the stick doesn't go that way, unless you play your games upright like this, which I don't.
You're
I play
thinking
down.
You're thinking of too much of a literal, like at the angle of the
stick that sticks out of the controller is either my head or my whole torso. Are you following me? And when I push forward, it's like somebody pushing on my back, which makes me look down. And when I pull back, it's like somebody doing this, and it makes me look up.
But then that doesn't make sense, because then you would have to be on the other side of your analog stick and push it back towards you.
Or you're just on top of it and you pull back. You don't literally need to. It's just, I'm saying the direction that it goes. It goes that way. So when the stick goes that way, I go that way, and it makes me look up. Really, left and right doesn't make sense, inverted or not inverted, because all it should really do is make you do this.
No, I don't agree with that, but we'll agree to disagree on that.
And that's why you can't really just make the argument that, well, it's kind of like a pool cue, and if you go one way, it should make you go the other way, because that's not following the same logic that the forward and back one is, I don't think.
It is if you're thinking of...
If you're thinking of it wrong?
No, if you're thinking of... Because the whole point, we're talking first-person games. So in a first-person game, you're looking out your eyes. So if you want... You're not thinking of your whole body, because you aren't controlling your whole body. You're controlling your head. That's what Colin's saying. So that I'm getting.
Okay, so the control stick is my head.
So you're controlling your head. So you're looking through a game. You're looking through.
So when
the
I
eyes
hit
like
left,
this.
I just do this.
But you don't. But you're not. The whole point is you are looking. You can't. You are looking left or right. Like you're looking up or you're looking down. You're looking left and looking right. You can't say, "Oh, I'm going to look up and look down," but then I'm just going to strafe. So that's why if you want,
know what you need. Have you seen people at work?
Yes,
have,
I don't
like,
know how
the
they use
Spaceballs?
those. I don't.
That's what you need, because those you can actually turn.
I don't know how those. When I see somebody with those things, I'm like that. I don't know.
That makes perfect sense, because then you can. It's literally then you actually do turn. I mean, it turns like models and stuff. But again, it's like with that, if I turn counterclockwise, am I expecting the model to turn counterclockwise? Or am I expecting my camera, my eyes, to be turning counterclockwise?
But now you're not. But you're controlling a 3D object. You're not playing a first-person game controlling somebody else.
It's like a third-person game.
Right.
You're watching.
You're whatever you make your ball do, that's what the thing on the screen is going to do.
Ball don't lie.
Ball don't lie. Here, the other thing that they raised as part of this discussion, it's a crime that every single game out there doesn't let you just map controls however you want to.
It really doesn't seem. I mean, I don't know the first thing about programming. You
it shouldn't be that hard. The input is the
input.
input.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it should be that difficult.
So think about Metal Gear Solid 3, for instance. If you could map that to where L2 aims and R2 shoots, instead of circle and you've got to push it a certain amount, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
And if you want to aim from, if you're crawling and you're in the grass, you want to look up, you got to hold like L2 and R2 and then push R1 down a little bit to look up. Like, if you could map those controls, the game would be even more perfect than it is. But
right.
And like, speaking of first-person games, I hate how a lot of first-person games, you click L3 in to run. I hate that.
It's hard to put. Well, a lot of them, once you click, you don't have to keep it clicked.
Now, but yeah, back in the, like on the
It's
PS3
hard to
days,
click and push
hold
forward
it and push
while
forward.
keeping it clicked. Yeah.
That's always like how GTA was just tap X or hold X and you run.
Right.
I'm like it's right there, it's fine, or put it on one of the triggers or something. But I also agree.
When
you
did the
should be able to
clicking
do that.
become a thing? Was that PS3? PS2 didn't have that, did it?
PS2 did not. It was definitely PS3.
PS3, yeah.
Because they were never even called L3 and R3. They were just analog sticks. And then when they became actual
Right,
buttons
yeah.
you could click, they called them L3 and R3.
Yeah.
One more thing before we move on. Do you know where all this probably started for you? All this inverting disease that you suffer from?
Where?
Earlier, you said you thought it was later on and stuff. Somebody brought this up in the podcast. And Colin just went, oh my God, that's it. That's when this started. GoldenEye.
No, see, I never played that till well after the fact.
Really?
I didn't play that till
Okay.
years. That's what I'm saying. I mean,
that was inverted
Descent was
only.
probably before that, right?
Well, that came out. It definitely came out before, so we probably played it before. It came out in 90.
But again, that doesn't really
5.
count because it was all keyboard,
That's a whole
keyboard
other
and or mouse.
That's a whole other discussion. Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of. I mean, you had the one analog stick on N64, but again, that didn't even. And GoldenEye is a totally different beast because you're hitting
use the C
up.
button,
You're
right?
using buttons, not
Yeah.
an analog to look around. So it wouldn't have been for me personally until PlayStation 2. And I'm trying to think of would be like Metal Gear. I'm trying to think of what Metal Gear Solid 2. I'm trying to think of what PS2
when you go
game-
first person aiming.
Right. But
So
I
you
know
went
I had
like
already
that?
made up my mind well before then. But I'm trying to think of where it would have come from. Unless I started inverting before analog sticks, maybe it was a PC thing, either keyboard controls or mouse controls. I mean, back when I used to do like, LAN parties with, Jason, Brent, and Jeff and all them, that would have been but that was when did Metal Gear Solid 2 come out?
2001.
Oh, so it would have been after that. There's no way I'm not going to let everything on this podcast go back to Metal Gear.
Only my stuff.
But I'm trying to think of when. All I know is I used to not be an inverter, and I eventually switched. Like one day it just clicked
The wrong way.
the right way.
Chuck Yeager was a great fun game, by the way.
That was actually pretty impressive for the time.
It was on our little crappy Micron
The
Windows
Micron
3.1.
3.1.
The graphics were pretty impressive. PC
Why were
Master
joysticks?
Race.
Joysticks are terrible. They're just not. I mean, it's basically
was
like
just
a
for
super
flight.
stiff analog stick.
I don't even remember.
Remember the Gravis pad, and you could screw in the little joystick
right.
into
That was
it?
weird.
It was so stiff. It went from like
Okay,
this to
but like the joystick that we had for Chuck Yeager, did that only move in 8 directions like the N64, or was it for you? It must.
It went all the way around, but it probably
only
only
registered
registered in 8 directions, if I had to guess.
That was a fun game. But I remember like, why can't I shoot something?
And whenever you crash, Chuck Yeager's face just shows up.
And wasn't he like
with like the flaming plane in the
yeah,
background?
he'd stand like
and you're just like, oh.
should have landed that one.
Okay.
Oh,
All right,
well.
the debate rages on.
Rages on. It'll never end. Let us know in the comments below. Are you one of those weird inverting people, or are you a regular old normal person like this guy who's got 2 thumbs and doesn't invert? This guy.
That guy.
If you like the video, hit the like button here, hit that subscribe button over here, and come on back to 2-Player Co-op for some more content. Thank you guys for being here and listening to us rabble and ramble and babble on about inverting and not
Babylon?
inverting. Babylon.
Babylon. David Gray.
That's a good song. But hey, until the next time, Sean, go ahead and take us out.
Thank you for playing.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.